What's up guys, it's the Void2 Gaming here. With LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight on the horizon for a now May 22nd release date, I thought I'd delve deeper into the story of the game. Given how TT has stated it's a far more narrative driven game than their previous LEGO games. While it's an original story, it takes inspiration from all of Batman media. That includes video games, that includes comics, that includes TV shows, like literally anything. But it's pretty evident, especially from like the marketing of the game, that it's very much based on the movies the most. Like that takes the highest precedence in terms of where it's getting its inspiration from. So in this video, I'm going to predict how the base structure of the story will go, and when each of the 6 non-Batman playable characters will be unlocked throughout the story. Also, to lay down some groundwork, via LEGO Game News on Twitter, who's a very reputable source on the game since, they kind of leaked the entire game's existence before it came out, and they've been pretty right on the money for the most part, so, we'll go off of a major aspect of what they said. And they said that the story will span 6 chapters or eras. We're gonna go with chapters for this video. It's a little more simple to work with. And we do know that the game will span years of Batman's legacy. So these 6 chapters going through those years, it's a smart idea. So what I'm gonna mainly predict here is that not only will each chapter introduce a brand new character to play as, 'cause it's 6 characters, 6 chapters, it just makes sense, but also that each chapter will have a specific film or multiple group of films that they're mainly inspired by. Each film, like each chapter, I'm going to kind of go through this video noticing the similarities they had to a very specific Batman film. So I think that every chapter is kind of based off of one or multiple of them. So let's just jump right into it with chapter 1. Chapter 1 might be the shortest chapter in the game, since it's most likely an introduction chapter, just to teach you the game mechanics and introduce you to Bruce Wayne before he becomes Batman. This will have a couple sections where you play as young Bruce, as well as presumably like Alfred being like a temporary player too, because I feel like if Alfred was like one of the main playable characters, they would have told us already. So it's likely just in these little openings, hey, you get to have Alfred walk around with you, but he doesn't do that much. The film that chapter 1 will likely take the most inspiration from is the only film that is really about like the origin of Batman. Granted, a lot of films kind of jump through the origins. This one spends the most time on it. This is, and specifically for chapter 1, the first half of Batman Begins. Obviously, again, we get to see his childhood from, childhood to becoming the Batman. And we see that in the game. We've seen clips of him going to the mountains to train with the League of Assassins. So I feel like this first chunk of the game is going to be just based off that first chunk of Batman Begins, which is kind of weird. Like the first thing we're starting off with, we're not even finishing the whole movie, but that's what we're going through. This will likely be when we also introduce our first unlockable character in the game, being Talia al Ghul. Obviously this is where we'll probably meet Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul. Correct me, please, in the comments. I would love a comment telling me I'm saying their names so wrong. But this is probably where we'll meet those 2 characters, given that, they're League of Assassins characters. It makes the most sense for them to appear here. So after Bruce meets Talia and trains with the League of Assassins, he should return to Gotham and, meet back up with Alfred, probably Lucius Fox, and start beginning his crime-fighting journey as Batman. This is what will then lead us into chapter 2. Batman has officially entered the game. No more are we just preparing as Bruce. We are now fully into Batman. He's done his training. His Batcave has just been set up, and he has gotten his first Batmobile. So this is early into Batman's career. Let's say it's maybe his first year, maybe second year being the Caped Crusader. So the next film that would take priority in this chapter is the main live action film that represents his very early in Batman career. While yeah, Batman Begins would also work here, given that is also a early film in his career, I think this will be 2022's The Batman. The Batman is set during Batman's second year, if I remember correctly. So I think it's also based off of like a comic that's also based off of those second year, like early days Batman film. And I believe TT Devs have mentioned, again, this is a whole lot of, if I remember correctly, I'm going to try to find links for all this stuff. But TT Devs have mentioned that one of the first Batman suits and one of the first Batmobiles you unlock in the game are the 2022 sets. You know, you're going to get that specific like car look of the Batmobile, and you're going to get that like suit. You know, we've seen it a lot in the marketing when the game was first unveiled. Like that was like the first suit they showed us. So these would make the most sense to be unlocked during a chapter themed around that movie. This is also where we'll meet a good chunk of Batman's villains for the first time. So we're going to see these villains in their early days. This includes Penguin, who will first be introduced inspired by his appearance in The Batman. So that Penguin that has the Colin Farrell played Penguin, where, you know, he had all the crazy makeup, you know, people can't recognize it as Colin Farrell. That's going to be the first Penguin we meet. Obviously, the appearance will change throughout the game, but that's what we're going to start with. We'll also be meeting Joker, who starts out as Red Hood 1, so he hasn't even become the Joker yet. So we're going to start out with him as well. And this is just a prediction since we haven't seen this version of the character in the marketing yet, but I feel like they'll introduce him before we get his villain appearance. I think we'll meet Harvey Dent in this chapter 2. And, you know, before he becomes Two-Face, maybe we'll see him become Two-Face during chapter 2. I'm not exactly sure, but that's a prediction. But again, haven't seen any footage of him yet. And again, all these villains, if all three are included in chapter 2, they will grow and change. You'll see them get new appearances, just like how we'll see Batman grow and change and get new appearances. That's a major aspect of the story this time around for a LEGO game. Another character we'll meet early in Batman's career is Commissioner Gordon. This will mark our second non-Batman playable character in the game. He is very much inspired by his appearance in The Batman as well, where he's played by Jeffrey Wright. So if we have an appearance of, you know, a Jeffrey Wright inspired Commissioner Gordon and a Colin Farrell inspired Penguin in the same chapter with a Robert Pattinson inspired Batman, I feel like it's kind of like we're seeing a lot of the same film being represented in like a short amount of time. So I think that, again, this chapter is on The Batman. And I believe the chapter will end with the Red Hood boss fight that we saw in the Ace Chemicals level back in Gamescom last year when the game was announced. As we see, Red Hood falls into the acid and, you know, his road to the Joker begins. But I believe Joker will take a back seat for the next chapter. He's not going to appear immediately in chapter 3. Chapter 3 will jump a little forward in time, in which I believe the beginning of the chapter, we will be seeing Bruce going to a circus to watch this family of gymnasts, the Flying Graysons, on their unfortunate final show. This is when I believe we'll meet character number 3, Dick Grayson, aka Robin. As you know, they have mentioned multiple times, I believe Dick Grayson is just the Robin of the game. Don't really know if we'll get more Robins after that. Don't know about Tim Drake, Jason Todd, whoever. We just know Dick Grayson's in it. That's a guarantee. And we've seen a little bit of the level that does introduce Robin. As we see, he doesn't have his actual Robin suit on when they first meet, when Batman and Robin first meet. He's just still wearing his Flying Grayson's outfit. And we see that Two-Face seems to crash the circus, crashing the show. And I believe this is where we'll get that first boss fight. The Batman films chapter 3, I believe will focus on, will be both of Joel Schumacher's films, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. These are the only live-action films that prominently feature a Robin, like not just a guy they call Robin, but like a full-on character in the suit, Batman sidekick, Robin. So I think both movies will end up being represented here. The villains from those films that appear in the game are also most visually inspired by their appearances in Batman and Robin and Batman Forever. Those include Poison Ivy, Two-Face, and Mr. Freeze. Batman and Robin also have their Schumacher film suits as well during some of the footage we've seen of them, so it seems like it's likely they're setting up that movie's going to be a pretty big chunk of the game. Also, in the Heroes and Villains trailer that we got at the Game Awards last year, Robin obviously is like in this scene where we're seeing him fighting a bunch of Poison Ivy like root enemies or whatever. So looks like we're gonna see Batman and Robin team up to fight Poison Ivy, a character from the films that feature a Robin. Like, you're seeing the similarities here, like pushing a lot of a certain film or group of films into one chapter. I think they're building that up with this. How I believe chapter 3 will end is with Robin going on his own for a little while. He's gonna get sent to Bloodhaven, which I'm not gonna lie, I don't know a lot about it. I didn't like research it. I'm just going off of what I remember from like I think Teen Titans Go and Batman Arkham Knight. But I believe he kind of goes off on his own for a while, protecting Bloodhaven, and he's gonna enhance his crime fighting skills. So while he's kind of hanging back, just doing his own thing away from Batman, we'll be going into the next chapter. We'll meet the next feline companion in Chapter 4. Chapter 4 will introduce a slightly older Batman meeting Catwoman, the fourth playable character. And I believe that while Catwoman does appear in like 3 different live action like iterations of Batman, I believe the focus for Chapter 4 will be on both of the Tim Burton Batman films, Batman and Batman 89 and Batman Returns. Catwoman has also been represented in like all the marketing for her character in her Batman Returns suit. So I think that's another kind of like giveaway that she's introduced and like primarily in a chapter themed around the Burton movies instead of like The Dark Knight Rises or the Batman. This is also the return of 2 Chapter 2 villains. Penguin, who now sports his Batman Returns appearance and is now running for mayor in the game. We saw like some teases of Penguin running for mayor on like I think like newspapers in the game. Just like the plot in Batman Returns, he runs for mayor in that game. I mean, not the game, the movie. My mistake. And we'll also see the return of Joker in this chapter. Of course, you know, it's like the big baddie of Batman 89. So while he stayed out of Chapter 3, you know, kind of rejuvenating after falling in acid, he now comes back and he's going to appear in some of his different Batman 89 looks. We see him have like the look from the prison, not the prison, what is it called? The museum. They just recently showed this off a couple weeks ago. We have the museum look, you know, we have like the standard 89 just look of him. So we're going to get a good chunk of that. We got like a scene referencing the part in 89 where he like first sees himself again after getting like reconstructed from falling in the acid. So we're getting a lot of references to Batman 89, and it seems like they're combining Catwoman and her introduction through those films. Just one more thing I want to mention too. We also see a little bit of Batman wearing his 89 suit, the Keaton suit. So like another kind of link to how each chapter focuses on a certain set of films. One more like little tidbit that we found out about this chapter, I can imagine. A development image of a level recreating the parade in Batman 89 does show Catwoman as a player too. It's a cool like little thing we found. Obviously, they haven't really shown us much gameplay of the parade level. I would love to see it. I think there's going to be where the ending of the chapter happens. I think they're going to end it with just a big parade battle. That'd be really cool. I do know we have like the big ending fight of Batman Returns in the game as well. You see Penguin and like that like ending little like his home, his little cave, little penguin cave. So I think we're gonna end the chapter with the parade. I feel like it's a more iconic ending. It makes sense to end the chapter on one of the most iconic endings of a Batman film. Chapter 5 was a little harder prediction for me, so I'm unsurprised I'm just like really off with this one. Like I feel like I'm kind of like on the money with some of them. This one, not at all. This one got difficult. This one introduces a character which only appears once in live action and is not, I don't even believe, I never saw the movie. I hate to say it. I'm gonna watch them. But this chapter introduces Batgirl with a Firefly themed boss fight. The only movie that includes a Batgirl is Batman and Robin, and I believe, I looked this up on Google, I believe she's not even Barbara Gordon. She's someone completely different from Barbara Gordon. I don't know for sure. I really need to actually go watch that movie. I was trying to watch them all. But it would make sense that the Schumacher films would extend to this chapter. You know, like, that's the only movie group that she's in. It wouldn't make sense. But I have a different idea. You know, hear me out on this one. I'm probably wrong, but hear me out. If you remember how chapter 1 was based off the first half of Batman Begins, I think chapter 5 is going to fill in the gap for the second half. I think this will include the return of Talia and Ra's al Ghul. I think that's how it goes. I know that Talia returning in a chapter about Batgirl seems kind of odd, but I think we can, like, infer from some little clips and, like, minor, like the split-second clips that sometimes you'll be playing as characters who weren't introduced in the current chapter. Like, you might be able to play as Commissioner Gordon in chapter 5, given that we're introducing his daughter into the game. So I think that they'll be able to jump around characters, so she might return. Maybe she's just a villain or like a character who appears in the story. I'm not sure. But Ra's al Ghul seems like kind of a given that, you know, hey, we haven't acknowledged him since the beginning, and he wasn't really like a bad guy, but we see that he'll become a real deal villain throughout the story. So I could see that, you know, they throw in Ra's al Ghul in this chapter, because I feel like he could fit in chapter 6, but I think he's going to fit better in 5. There's also another villain. There's one, I think, I'm not completely sure. I was just like looking back at it. There's one live action Batman, like, major villain from a live action Batman movie who has not been shown in any marketing. So it's one villain, but I don't know what they're going to be in the game. They've kind of pushed their main villains, but this one live action villain just is not included. And it feels so weird that we haven't seen him. But that's Scarecrow. You know, I don't know, they maybe want to surprise us. It's going to be like a cool interest, but he's the only villain that we haven't really seen anything of. We've seen pretty much every villain from every live action film have a prominent role, but Scarecrow. So I'm interested to see, maybe they keep him in as a surprise, but he would kind of appear here if we're doing Batman Begins in chapter 5. That is the movie he primarily appears in. I imagine that the Ra's al Ghul boss fight will bookend chapter 5, and this will lead us into another time jump into the final chapter of the story. Chapter 6 will round out the story of Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. This will introduce a character who I believe, again, haven't watched the Schumacher films, but I believe has just straight up not been in any of the live action Batman movies. This will have the return of Dick Grayson. He's coming back from his time in Bloodhaven under a brand new hero identity. No more Little Boy Wonder. He has grown into the Nightwing. But with Nightwing not being part of any of the films, again, not sure about the Schumacher films, but I'm pretty sure he just straight up isn't in them. There's Robins, but I don't think there's just any Nightwing. What will be the focus films for this chapter? Well, if you like remember when I said that these go up from 89, starting from 89, ending with 2022's The Batman, there's literally like 2 movies I've left out and all the way up till now. It's The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Of course, 2 of the biggest Batman films of all time to be the big finale of Lego Batman. That's honestly an epic move on TT's part. I'm hoping. Here's hoping. So the villains who will take center stage in chapter 6 are Bane, who's obviously sporting his Dark Knight Rises design. We haven't seen a lot of him, but we can kind of tell that he's introduced during a scene reminiscent to the fight against Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, like the first major fight with Bane and Batman. And this will also be the return of the Joker. He skipped chapter, I believe, 5? Yeah, he skipped chapter 5, and he'll be coming back with his Dark Knight designs, which, of course, he had a lot of them, and he has a lot of them in this game, too. We've seen the purple jacket, we've seen the vest, and we've seen the nurse outfit. So we've seen a lot of his various looks throughout that movie, and it's like they're getting all of them in here. So how they could introduce Nightwing, other than just saying he returns from Bloodhaven, is that I predict that it will begin with Batman and Catwoman fighting Bane. They're gonna go up against Bane just like in Dark Knight Rises. I think Catwoman was there during that scene as well. And Batman's gonna lose. You know, I mean, we'll win throughout the boss fight itself. We'll technically take down his health. We'll get through it. But Bane's gonna get him. He's gonna get the upper hand. He's gonna break that back. I really wonder how they're gonna represent that scene. It would be so fun if they just split him into two pieces. But he's gonna break him. He's gonna snap him, you know, and that's gonna be causing Batman to have an injury that Nightwing takes notice of. So I think he's gonna come back. Nightwing's gonna come back from Bloodhaven. He's going to come down and say, hey, I'm going to help you out with whatever you're dealing with. We're going to help you. We're going to go take on Bane again. But with Nightwing's help, they're going to win. And then after that, it's going to go full on Dark Knight. This is going to be just Joker. Rest of the chapters is Joker at his worst. He's doing everything. And I can't wait to see how that turns out. But I think this is like the last time we're facing the Joker. So we've got a couple like straight recreations of scenes that we have seen in like marketing. We got an interrogation scene from The Dark Knight, and we've gotten the truck chase from The Dark Knight. And I believe like how we can tell Nightwing is part of Chapter 6 and part of The Dark Knight, like part of the game, is that we see Nightwing and Batman. Batman's in his tumbler, Nightwing's on a bike. They're both chasing down some type of fast-moving vehicle in the streets of Gotham, and it's shooting rockets back at him. Just like the truck chase where Joker has an RPG. He's shooting at the Batman, he's shooting at Batman, he's shooting at him in the tumbler. So again, like we're seeing that, like I want to hammer this in so you like really get what I'm trying to say. We're seeing that connection of, you know, the certain movie scene with the specific movie Batmobile, and we're seeing certain characters appear in these scenes with Batman as well. So Nightwing coming back for this moment makes a lot of sense. Nightwing also makes the most sense to appear in Chapter 6, mainly because at this point he's supposed, like, years are supposed to have been gone by. Like Robin, when we first see him in Chapter 3, he's like literally shorter than the rest of the characters. He's a full-blown child. So to make him like become Nightwing and be like the same height and you know, like same height, probably the same age as Batgirl, like years have had to gone by to kind of catch up. Probably can't be the same age as Batgirl. I mean, he could. But you gotta catch up a lot of years. So kind of putting him near the end of the game to represent how much time has passed since Chapter 3 to Chapter 6, like that's how you hammer in those years have passed, by straight up showing a character grow up, literally a kid to an adult. Like that's how you can tell those years are going by, and how Nightwing makes the most sense to be one of the last characters you unlock. We also see this Joker is being taken to Arkham again in the Tumbler. We see the Tumbler heading to Arkham, and then after this we see like a clip that's like representative of the opening level of Arkham Asylum. I think this is to kind of like, you know, like it's ironic. The opening level of Arkham Asylum will be the final level of Legacy of the Dark Knight. I believe it's going to be a massive level fighting through Arkham Asylum, facing off against a bunch of villains, tons of Easter eggs to the Arkham Asylum game, and I think also like incorporating all the other characters we've unlocked, like having Batgirl and Commissioner Gordon and Catwoman, even Talia, like all of them coming back to help out, take on all these villains, like a boss rush final level. Like I think that is how they're gonna end it, like this big Arkham Asylum level where all the way at the end you just fight Joker just one more time. You gotta finish it off with one more Joker fight. Will he turn to a Titan infused monster? Hopefully not. But yeah, I think it's ending with this big level. After 6 chapters of movie, TV, comic, and video game inspirations, we can finally roll credits for LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. Now, obviously, these are just predictions, and the story could go any which way. We don't know if it's like gonna be exactly how I predicted, or if it's just gonna be completely off the rails different. Thankfully, we're gonna find out a little sooner than we initially expected, since LEGO Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight got its release date pushed up from May 29th to May 22nd. And it's May 19th for those deluxe edition owners, for at least the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and the PC players. Nintendo Switch 2, the release for that is still at a later date in 2026, hopefully 2026. I don't think it's guaranteed this year. But thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed me yapping about Lego Batman and you want more videos of me yapping about Lego Batman, you know, consider liking and subscribing. You know, I'm gonna have a lot more stuff. I'm gonna try to talk more about this game in the lead up to the release. So until then, see you all next video.